Good morning. It's Daryl with Airflow. I had a great conversation this morning, and I want to share it. Some of the things that I discussed may seem a little bit taboo, but believe me, I have nothing but the purest intentions, and I hope that you receive the message that I have to say, because the conversation that I'm having in my life, the people that I'm having these conversations with, is so insightful, it's so inspirational that I definitely just have to share. I cannot hold back. So from now on, I'm going to be unloading these conversations. Today, I want to talk about leadership, because this morning my wife and I went through Proverbs 1 through 10. As we went through the book of Proverbs, chapters 1 through 10, something hit me. Leadership is not our biggest problem. And maybe some of you are aware of that. Maybe you're seeing it yourselves. Followership is. This world is obsessed with leaders, political leaders, cultural leaders, influencers. Everyone wants to be followed, even those who are not necessarily leaders. And that's just crazy. I mean, the book of Proverbs doesn't even start with leadership. It starts with wisdom. It starts with fear of the Lord. It starts with his instruction. This means that you cannot lead before you learn how to follow. But follow what? Everyone should know what to follow, because if you compare most of our leaders of today, even the leaders of the past, if you compare them to Jesus, you will see that something is missing. And it's not that mysterious. It's righteousness, uprightness. These people have no consecration. They're out of alignment, which is what I'm discussing at all times with this platform. Jesus did not begin preaching the moment he was born. Not even after he went to school. He went through a process. He was baptized. He was tested. He was consecrated. And he did things to maintain that and keep his alignment with that. Only then did he begin operating in public as an agent of God. But they don't emphasize that part. Some people will tell you, but they're not going to emphasize it. We're all born with the capacity to be agents of God. We're all born with the capacity to be leaders. But capacity is not consecration. Now, let me swing this to something else that my wife sent me this morning. After we had our conversation, she sent me some information about a guy named Abraham Maslow. Maslow talked about peak experiences. And these were moments of unity, moments where your heart, your mind, and yourself were merged fluidly. And these moments produced tremendous happiness, right? But he also said something else. He said that these moments are temporary, they're fleeting. He said that they're rare. And he observed that mental illness often comes from a loss of meaning, which is true. It comes from fragmentation, which is true. And it comes from spiritual disorder. These are good points, and they're generalized, but they're true. So here's where it stops. Here's where most people stop. What they do is they study psychology, right? But they don't ever take it any further. They don't take it past there. They don't ask, why is it fleeting, right? They just medicate the fleetingness, right? They don't ask if we're looking at it the wrong way. They don't check to see if the hierarchy of what we're saying is wrong. So when she sent me this, my wife, I texted her and I told her that, you can see that he described this as fleeting happiness, right? But what I've been experiencing has lasted for 17 years, because it's not about happiness. It's not happiness as we understand. It's purpose. And purpose is not a mood. It's not a feeling. It's a frequency. And when you are on the right frequency, that requires momentum. You have to keep it straight there, right? The moment you turn your loyalty back to the frequencies of the world or the norms of the world, it disappears. This is not psychology. This is alignment. Most people think that joy looks like what they've seen on commercials, right? They think when you're experiencing joy, it's just a bunch of smiling and just buying a whole bunch of stuff and you just traveling everywhere. Joy, this is programming, right? We've been programming. We've been programmed to believe that rich equals happy and poor equals sad. But that's not a reality. If you've ever been rich or been poor, you're going to experience happiness and sadness. That's just not that's just not how it works. Joy joy that's based in ego is hollow. It's probably just going to satisfy one part of you. It's going to say, yeah. Your mind is going to say, yes, this is it. Your heart's going to say, yes, I like this, right? But then your soul was never consulted, right? And your soul ultimately always has the final vote, right? So the problem is that most people let their emotions speak first. That's the world we live in. They filter through their heart, then their mind, then their soul, or they let their logic speak first, right? And then they filter through their mind, their heart, and then their soul, right? But both of them are wrong. The correct order is soul, mind, heart. Okay, most people are not living like that. Okay, your emotions should be the last thing making decisions for you. But in our culture, we've taught ourselves that those are the first things, your emotions should be the first things to make decisions. And when your soul finally speaks out and says that's wrong, it's usually after all the damage is done. You already messed it up. And that's why the happiness feels fleeting, because you keep messing it up, because it was never rooted in the right order. If you root it in the right order, maybe you can maintain it, right? Maslow observed fragmentation, but he didn't correct it. Airflow attempts to correct it. That's what this is. Maslow described unity, right? Airflow defines the right order. It's soul first, God first, not self-actualization, God actualization. And that's the major difference. That's the major difference in all of our systems, all of our societies. When you remove self-serving orientation and then you infuse spirituality, peak experience, it stops being rare. It's not a mystery. You feel it. It becomes something you can sustain. Not because your life all of a sudden is easy. Comfort is a trap. It's something you can sustain because you're now aligned, right? And God will sustain you, right? Now, let me tell you a story that I told her, okay? Because healthy children live in this peak experience naturally. They're already unified, heart, mind, soul, right? But the world strips it away from them. All of the systems and all of the illusions, the advertising, then they got these groups and all these labels. They make you focus on the politics of everything, right? All of these things stack up between you and God, right? And I describe it like this, right? Humanity has obsessed itself with building this pile. Every person, every generation is just adding to this massive pile of distractions, right? It's really wrapped up in pride and ego, identity battles, and these performances that people just so insistently live in, right? They try their best to stack the pile up and climb the pile. They're trying to reach heaven, right? But while they're building all of this and they're burning the energy and doing all of this, God has already made a perfect staircase over to the side. Straight access. Straight access. But the pile is loud. The pile's competitive. It's entertaining. Everybody gravitates to the pile. It's like bugs gravitating to a light. It just calls you. And they don't even believe. They kind of believe, but they don't even believe that the staircase exists. Why would I try that? When they pile and they spend their time and they trying and they realize that it's not gonna reach heaven, this pile that they've been building, it's too late to climb down. You're too tired. So the only thing you can do is convince others that this pile is the only way. So you set a trap for other people, so then they get trapped in the pile, and now you can feed off of them. And then when they get trapped in the pile, they just, I can't beat them, join them. They make another trap. This is not leadership. This is leadership without consecration. This is influence without alignment. Here's the uncomfortable truth about all of this, right? Every person chooses the pile at some point. You might choose it more than once in life. It's the perfect flaw of life. It's God's test in life, right? But the difference is this. Are you willing to break free from your trap? Are you willing to climb down? Are you willing to fight through your pride? Are you willing to admit that you were climbing on the wrong structure the whole time? It doesn't matter who you are. Are you willing to admit? Are you willing to then climb off of the pile and find the staircase? And then are you willing to use your energy and catch up and climb and walk? Are you willing to walk the staircase, right? That's leadership, right? Leadership is not dominance. It's disciplined devotion. Jesus did not dominate. He submitted, and that's why he had authority. But authority without submission becomes corruption every time. We've seen it over and over again. And that's what we're seeing today. That's what we see everywhere. That's what we see that's happening everywhere now, right? So my wife and I were only able to have this conversation because we communicate unfiltered. She had a disagreement with me. I had a disagreement with her. And that can cause friction. It can be uncomfortable, but neither one of us is willing to compromise. And praise God that when you keep communication open through conflict, all of a sudden insight emerges, right? Iron sharpens iron, okay? Alignment requires humility. You cannot be forcing things to change, not in marriage, not in leadership, not in psychology, not in faith, right? So going back to Maslow, when Maslow talks about mental illness being tied to a loss of meaning, he was close. And this is one of the closest theories I've seen on this topic, right? But what he missed is that meaning without God is incomplete. If you have self-meaning, that's not true meaning. You cannot have a true peak experience until you really understand this, that life is not about self-expansion. It's about surrender. That it's not about building your pile higher. It's about stepping off of the pile, stepping onto the staircase and climbing in the right way, right? And that staircase has been there forever, pre-built. It's waiting for you, right? That's what airflow is about. That's what airflow is, right? It's not self-help. Because I wouldn't want you to help yourself do something that you want that God doesn't want you to do. It's not ego optimization, right? Because who cares about you and your ego? This is about God. It's not branding spirituality. I will never be the one to tell you, through me, you can find God. That's not my place. This is alignment. Choosing God when your body is loud. Choosing God when your mind is racing. Choosing God when your emotions are pulling you in different directions. That is leadership. And that is followership. This is what consecration is. And that's the part they don't tell you about. They try to tell you you could just be born and just be the leader. Or you could just go to school and just be the leader. But that can't be consecration because that's what everybody does, right? So happiness is not a feeling. If you've been missing out on happiness, if you've been feeling fragmented, if you've been feeling exhausted, like you've just been climbing and climbing, maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just looking at it the wrong way, right? Maybe you're climbing the wrong structure because the staircase is still there. It's still there. The only question is, are you willing to backtrack? Are you willing to free yourself? Are you willing to look back, go back, search, and find the staircase? And then when you get there, are you going to be able to muster up the strength to walk it straight, upright? Because that is what life is about. That is the test of God. And all of this came from a morning conversation. I'm not going to spend the rest of the day going over this. When I get another one, I'm going to unload it on you. But I felt like it was important. And as my life turns into this position, as things shift into me delivering the messages that I placed on my heart, I want you to know that I'm getting more and more comfortable. And I'm about to start telling y'all the things that I really feel, and hopefully it reaches the people that it really needs to reach. Hopefully God can reach somebody through the messages that he's delivering to me, the messages he's delivering through me. So this is Airflow. I'll tap in with you guys soon. Thanks.